Hi, and welcome to the Foundations for Change video series, brought to you by the Zurich Flood Resilience Alliance. In this video, Karen MacClune from ISET-International will introduce the proactive programming approach and how humanitarian and development organizations can use it to navigate an increasingly complex and uncertain world.
We start with the landscape that we're working in, which is complex. The world is increasingly interconnected. Technology is changing quickly, and our systems rely on one another to continue functioning, and yet we're fully reliant on those systems for our day-to-day lives. And with that, we also are facing increasing uncertainty because of climate change, because of things like the pandemic. And the result is a shifting risk landscape, and one in which the risks tend to trigger one another. So we can get cascading risks. To live in this kind of environment and to work well and to deliver good development and programming, we need to be proactive. We need to be flexible. We need to be adaptive, but we need to look forward. And so that's what we've really seen in this past year and a half within the Alliance of working with COVID. And we just want to share sort of the characteristics that we've seen that have made that possible. The foundational characteristics are trust and long program timeframes. Trust, none of this works without trust. Because you need to be willing to not just look at what works, but at what's challenging and where there are failures. And that requires that partners assume that everyone is working to the best of their ability and that it isn't because of a failure or a lack of attention. This is a two-way trust. It's donors really trusting the people they fund. It's practitioners really trusting their donors. And it takes time to build this kind of trust, and it takes an openness. And within the Alliance, we're really lucky that everyone has come to the table with a foundation of trust and that we've just built it over time. The other piece that's absolutely foundational is long program timeframes. That if you're going to be forward-looking and flexible and adaptive, you can't do that quickly. Pivoting takes time, and we've had the sort of benefit within the Alliance of 5-year funding cycles from Zurich, and it makes all the difference in the world. And the organizations, the pieces of the Alliance that have actually been working for now 8 years are certainly the places where we're sinking in and having the most impact because we've been able to do a couple of those shifts now of seeing what's working and using it and seeing what's working and using it. Based on that foundation, then you need a way to internally see what's working and what isn't, and to use that learning. And so a key part of the Alliance has been investing in internal learning processes. The challenge with this is it is not simple. It really needs to be intentional. It needs to be well thought out. The time and effort that it takes to do it needs to be a commitment. The funding needs to be committed. And so we've been fortunate that this is a piece that Zurich has said, yes, we need. We've been fortunate that all of the organizations that are part of the Alliance have said, yes, we want to internally learn and use that learning. This is something that any long-term program should be investing in. And if you aren't, or if the programs aren't, there should be a discussion about that. And then once you have the foundation of your vessel, your program built, in order to be able to steer that, the most critical piece is budget flexibility. Without budget flexibility, you develop a program or a plan, you set out the budget, and then when things change, you're quite locked in. And so we've had the benefit within the Alliance of quite a lot of budget flexibility, and also when we request changes, really rapid turnaround. So a flexible budget that still takes 6 or 12 months to activate is not necessarily going to be responsive enough to the sort of time frame on which you want to make changes. And again, with budget flexibility, there are interesting challenges. Donors need to be willing to provide that flexibility. And at the same time, organizations need to be in a position to use it. And this isn't as straightforward as it might sound. Many organizations, have systems in place, they have structures, they have expectations, and the ability to pivot and just move budget differently is also a challenge. And so as organizations set up proactive programming approaches, thinking about where you can build in budget flexibility, if it's offered, is a really important component. The next piece is a change-oriented focus. If what your program is doing is delivering a very cut and dried linear process, there's not a lot of space to be proactive. It will be certainly useful if change is thrust upon you, but as a fundamental component, it's less important. But for us within the Alliance, what we're trying to do is understand the systems at play and where shifting those systems fundamentally will lead to more resilient outcomes. And so with a change-oriented focus, looking forward and thinking about where we want to be going with that change is absolutely critical. Our final piece is collaborative decision-making. And this has been critical to decide together where we're headed so that we can unlock synergies in our work. And it is absolutely critical that the trust element and the internal learning be in place to inform that and support that. And without that trust and internal learning and the long program timeframes to really allow that to build over time, collaborative decision-making really wouldn't be possible. But without the collaborative decision-making, you can't continue to work together toward the same common goals. That's kind of, in a nutshell, what we've learned from COVID. As one of our members, Miguel from the Peru team, has said, there's always the desire to be adaptive, but you need to be enabled by those higher level management approaches. And those 6 pieces are really the approaches that we've found to be the critical building blocks.